The year is 1881. Radical socialists assassinate Russian Tsar Alexander II. The Jews are blamed. The pogroms that follow lead to a mass exodus of Jews, mainly to America. But not all eyes turn west. Others decide that the only answer for the Jews is to establish their own national home. A few years before, those who would lead this movement had advocated assimilation. What shatters their hopes is not just the mob violence and its tacit approval by the Tsarist regime. It is the reaction of the progressive Russian intelligentsia, who see the pogroms as a natural response to Jewish exploitation. Even Tolstoy, the conscience of the nation, is silent. Chief among the newly committed Jewish nationalists is Leo Pinsker, a prominent physician. In 1882, he writes,
"A number of other dependent and oppressed nationalities have been allowed to regain their independence. We too must not sit a moment longer with folded hands. It is our bounden duty to devote all our remaining moral force to re-establishing ourselves as a living nation."
Associations spring up for promoting Jewish emigration to Palestine. These become known as Chovovei Zion, or Lovers of Zion. The first to attempt Aliyah are students from the city of Kharkov who call themselves BILU, an acronym for House of Jacob, Come Ye and Let Us Go, from Isaiah 2 verse 5. The attrition rate is high. Of 300 members who decide to immediately set out for the Holy Land, only 16 will make it to Palestine, arriving in Jaffa in July 1882. Like preceding waves of immigrants to Eretz Israel, most are religious Jews. What makes them different is their determination to pave the way for a national rebirth. Ze'ev Dubno, a member of BILU, writes to his famous historian brother Simon, who has told him to stop wasting his time in Palestine.
The ultimate aim is to build up this land of Israel and restore to the Jews the political independence that has been taken from them for the past 2,000 years.
These enthusiastic idealists are not prepared for what awaits them. Perhaps the most famous description of the Holy Land comes from Mark Twain, who described the scene in 1868.
"Palestine sits in sackcloth and ashes. Over it broods the spell of a curse that has withered its fields and fettered its energies."
Novelist Herman Melville calls the country
an accumulation of stones, stony walls, and stony fields, stony houses and stony tombs, stony eyes and stony hearts.
Hannah Traeger is a child when, just prior to the Chovovei Zion settlements, her father Zerach Burnett, along with other pioneers from Jerusalem, becomes a founder of Petach Tikva, the first agricultural settlement.
3 days passed, our meals grew smaller and smaller, and our appetites larger. A week passed, and the bread supply gave out altogether. One day we came in and found Mother and a few more women with babies sitting together and crying, lamenting aloud over the folly and obstinacy of their husbands in starting the settlement.
It was not hunger, but disease and death that forced the pioneers to abandon Petach Tikva. The Chovovei Zion societies buy land for the settlers, but there is no money for wells or the most basic tools. The desperate settlers are saved by one of the wealthiest Jews in the world, Baron Edmund James de Rothschild. Chiefly known as an art collector, the 37-year-old baron responds to an appeal on the settlers' behalf by Rabbi Shmuel Mohi Lever, seconded by Paris chief rabbi Tzadok Khan. Rothschild goes on to create a remarkable, unprecedented personal colonizing project. He completely takes over 4 settlements: Rishon LeZion, Zichron Yaakov, Rosh Pina, and Ekron, and helps many others. By paying to drain the malarial swamps nearby, he makes it possible for Petach Tikva to be reconstituted and for Hannah's family to return. Because the Baron refused to help Theodor Herzl, he has been portrayed as hostile to Zionist goals. Rather, it is Herzl's means to the goal that the Baron considers impractical and dangerous. He is convinced the Sultan will never give the Jews a charter for Palestine, and fears publicity about Jewish goals will give the suspicious Turks grounds to shut down the existing communities. Following the First Zionist Congress in 1897, the Turks do impose further restrictions on Jewish building and immigration. In many respects, the Baron is a Jewish nationalist. Visiting Palestine in 1899, 2 years after the first Zionist Congress, he tells the farmers of Rishon LeZion,
I did not come to your aid because of your poverty and suffering. I did it because I saw in you the realizers of the Renaissance of Israel, and of that ideal so dear to us all, the sacred goal of the return of Israel to its ancestral land.
In running the settlements, the Baron is a benevolent patriarch. Still, the Baron's administrators brook no dissent from their decrees. In Rishon, the settlers engage in open revolt in 1883. In Rosh Pinna, 2 years later. Yet the Baron's experts make significant contributions, shifting crops from uneconomic wheat to grapes and citrus, which will finally make the pioneers of the first Aliyah self-sufficient. They become farmers employing mostly Arab workers. For this, they will be sharply attacked as plantation owners by the next wave of immigrants who begin arriving in 1904. These make up the second Aliyah, and they will clash bitterly with the first.